That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
All you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni-beating, pie-eating, trailblazing, eyebrow-raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, the Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
Alright, welcome to Around the Ring episode 59. My name is Dave Brown, I'm your host. It is Sunday, August 14th, 2016. It's been a while since we've been around. Took a break, just had a lot of other stuff going on, and with the coming of SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver and even Death Before Dishonor with Ring of Honor, even though no one knows what the hell's going on in that pay-per-view, it felt like a good time to jump back into it. Plus, we've got this brand extension thing that's going on. We've got the Cruiserweight Classic, and I figured it'd be a fun time to talk. So today we're going to go over some NXT TakeOver predictions, because that will be happening this coming Saturday. We're going to give my thoughts on the brand split a little bit, and talk about the Cruiserweight Classic, something I have thoroughly enjoyed up to this point. Well, let's just go ahead and get right into NXT TakeOver. As of right now, there are 6 matches announced for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn II. And the first one will be the Ember Moon. It's a debut. Now, whether that's a match or her just talking, we don't know. But she's going to show up. I really hope they don't feed someone like Billie Kay to her. Billie Kay has recently gotten a couple of wins on TV, and I think her and Peyton Royce are kind of the next women who are going to really take that division and run with it, which I've been saying for a long time. So the show starts out with No Way Jose against Austin Aries. You know, No Way Jose actually showed some fire a few weeks ago when he just kind of lost it during a match and then cut a blistering promo on Austin Aries. That was pretty cool. Austin Aries as a heel is definitely the best Austin Aries we have seen so far in NXT. Then we've got Andrade Cien Almas, which I totally mispronounced, against Bobby Roode in Bobby Roode's debut match in NXT. Hold on. First of all, I think Austin Aries is probably going to win that match. Maybe some fuckery going on, but I think Austin Aries is going over. In this one, I think it's pretty safe to say that Bobby Roode is going to win this. Almas, the former La Sombra, I think is not going over as well as people had hoped. He's really, really good in the ring, but his character, unlike when El Generico took off the mask and became Sami Zayn, this hasn't worked quite as well, and I don't know what it is. I'm not familiar really with his back catalog of work. I know he's a really good wrestler. I just don't know much about him other than that. Matches have been pretty good. I mean, nothing great. Nothing about this guy has jumped out and screamed, incredible. Unlike Bobby Roode, who has been glorious in just his few minutes, and the glorious bombs have been amazing online. Thank you, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Those two are two of my favorite dudes. Speaking of, but yes, Bobby Roode's going to win that match. And speaking of, the NXT Tag Team Championship match, The Revival, going against Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. This very well could be the match of the night. The Revival, fucking awesome. Quite possibly the best tag team in the world today. These guys, I mean, it's between them and American Alpha, but these guys are outstanding. They're throwback, and they're so good. And then Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa had one of the best matches of the year a couple weeks ago in the Cruiserweight Classic. These guys are two superstars waiting to happen. And it's amazing. You know, Ciampa, when he was in Ring of Honor, I could not stand him. Yeah. But this pairing with him and Gargano in NXT is fantastic. And I know eventually they're going to split off, and they'll have some kind of feud at some point. But I really want to see these guys, you know, maybe go up to either Raw or SmackDown. I don't know. As I've said many times, I'm so cautious about that because things are so good in NXT. I hate seeing these guys and gals go quote unquote up and it just not work out as well. But we will have to see. I think in this one, I really don't know. All I know is this is going to be a great fucking match, and this is quite possibly going to be the match of the weekend. I mean, SummerSlam is a pretty stacked card, and my plan is we're going to do another episode next week, and we'll talk about it then. Hopefully, my good friend Jason will be joining us back as a co-host on the show. But in the meantime, this match truly has the potential of being the match of the weekend. And if it is, I think that just should speak volumes all around. But both of these teams are phenomenal. I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great freaking match. I don't know if I would take the titles off of the Revival just yet. You know, I don't know if Gargano and Ciampa are heading up to Raw to be part of the Cruiserweight division. I just don't know. I would love to see the tag titles on Gargano and Ciampa, and maybe eventually the Revival get them back, or maybe the Revival is going to head up to Raw or SmackDown. I don't know. All I know is I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of this match, and I cannot wait to watch it. Then we've got the probably what's considered a co-main event, the NXT Women's Championship, Asuka defending her title against Bayley. This should be fantastic. I think the safe money is to figure that Bayley is going to get the win and be the first person to defeat Asuka. It all depends on what their plans are with Bayley. Are they going to send Bayley up to Raw or SmackDown? Are they going to keep her in NXT? I don't know. I think with someone like Bayley, she just prints you money, and maybe right now the idea is you keep her in NXT because so many of the kind of named stars of NXT that have kind of built the brand over the last since 2014 have moved on to Raw and SmackDown, and you don't want to lose all of your star power at once. Granted, you've got your Samoa Joes, your Nakamura's, you've got a guy like Bobby Roode that's going to drive ticket sales. You've got the Revival, which are doing great. So Austin Aries as well, and Hideo Itami is back. But Bayley is this big, big star for them, and I don't know if they're ready to let her go yet. And then the fear is, what the hell are they going to do with her on either Raw or SmackDown? And which show should she go to? In a way, you think she needs to go to SmackDown to keep her away from Sasha Banks. But I don't know. I almost wish that they had kept the women's division on one show and put the cruiserweights on the other show, because the women's division it's not big enough really to be spread apart on two separate shows, and that becomes so obvious when they bring out all the ladies at once. But that's something we'll talk about in the brand extension here in a little bit. This is another one I don't know on this match. All I know is it's going to be great, and I'm looking forward to it. And then we have the NXT Championship match, Samoa Joe against Shinsuke Nakamura. Again, and on this one, also, I don't know. I really don't. I think the safe money is Nakamura walks away, and that crowd goes fucking-listic and loses their mind over this, because Nakamura is so over. What will be interesting is watching the reaction Nakamura gets, and then the next night watching the reactions that people get during SummerSlam and see how they differ, because Nakamura is over like Grover, and who knows, maybe they're gonna call him up to Raw or SmackDown soon. I don't know which one he would belong on. And the same with Samoa Joe. Maybe they're going to call him up at some point soon, too. I think in some ways it's too soon to pull the title off of Joe, but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Nakamura. Because who in the roster right now can you see as really being able to beat up Samoa Joe? I mean, Nakamura is the guy. But from top to bottom, this card is going to be stacked. And I think it's going to be a fun night. And actually the whole weekend, because you think about what's coming next weekend. There is Friday night Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor, which is going to be headlined with Jay Lethal defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Adam Cole. That should be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. I have no idea what else is going on that card. I really don't. I've had a hard time following ROH lately. I'm really far behind. But to some extent, it's their show sometimes is so out of sync with what's going on in their house shows and their tours and whatnot. It's kind of hard to keep up, which sucks because they have a phenomenal roster. They've got great talent, and it's kind of sad that their stuff isn't more coherent. And I understand they film a lot of stuff at once. I really wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they had a way, maybe had the finances to do, maybe only record 2 weeks worth of shows, maybe 3 at one time, because then you don't get so far out of sync with what you've got going on in your house shows. But this pay-per-view should be quite good. I know they're getting more and more involved in their relationship with New Japan. Jay Lethal defended the Ring of Honor Championship during the G1 Climax shows. And, the Briscoes are the IWGP Tag Team Champions. Adam Cole's a Bullet Club member, which, okay, so that's something that's, a lot's happened since we last talked. And this is also a topic I'm going to want to talk about with Jason, so I'm probably not going to go too in-depth here. Same with the Ospreay Ricochet match, which I want to talk with Jason about. But Adam Cole in the Bullet Club, on paper, sounds like a great idea. I love Adam Cole. He's one of my favorite wrestlers right now. I think he is fantastic. I really like the Young Bucks. So teaming them together sounds like a great idea. Heck, I even like Adam Page. There are a few of those people in the Bullet Club that suck so bad. And to some extent, I almost wonder if just the Bullet Club moniker itself needs to go away and they need to come up with some other faction. I mean, Cole and the Bucks are Mount Rushmore in PWG, so maybe do a play on that. I don't know. I'm not a booker. But it just, on the one hand, it's like, okay, this is a great idea. Adam Cole in the Bullet Club, it's going to work. But then you watch some of it, and I have some flashbacks to when the NWO got too big. So it's almost like when Bret Hart was put into the NWO a little bit, which on paper should have been awesome, but in reality really wasn't. So maybe I haven't seen enough of it. I don't know. I love Adam Cole. I love the Young Bucks. So hopefully it'll all go well. I will say I think Adam Cole is going to win the Ring of Honor World Championship this coming weekend, and be the one to finally end Jay Lethal's over year-long reign as ROH champion. So that's going to be good, I think. But back to this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, there's also a couple of Evolve shows that are going to go on. So it is a stacked weekend for wrestling, which is great. It's just fantastic. And next week we'll talk about SummerSlam, because I think they're going to add some more stuff to the card. And yeah, I want to watch the go-home shows before I talk about predictions of SummerSlam. But so speaking of go-home shows, let's talk about this brand split. The rumors have been going around for a long time that there was a brand split, there needed to be a brand split. And then USA was like, you know what, guys, we need better ratings, so we're going to make SmackDown live, which I really do think is a good idea. And so they threw together this brand split, and it just, on paper, you look at it, SmackDown has the more established stars in a lot of cases, but Raw is certainly more top-heavy. They're more of a stacked lineup. That first week, Raw was amazing. I mean, glued to my seat, 3 hours went by in 5 minutes. Fucking good. The next week was okay, and this last week was pretty bad. I had a couple of moments that were not awful, but overall, it was pretty bad. I mean, the highlight, and go figure, but the highlights was all the stuff with Cesaro. Even though I hate that he lost the U.S. title, and who knows, maybe they're going to add Cesaro and Sheamus into the Rusev-Roman Reigns title match, but one thing I will say, the demotion of Roman Reigns down to the mid card, fighting for upper mid card title, has been great, because if you listen to his reactions, he is not getting booed out of the building. It was almost like that a few years ago, that Money in the Bank match that he was in, and people were cheering him like crazy because they were enjoying it, but as soon as he started climbing that ladder, the place rang out with boos. At this point, I think the thing people don't like about Roman Reigns is they don't like that he's shoved down their throats. So as long as he stays away from the world title picture, people don't mind him so much. So yeah, let's give him a shot at the U.S. title. Give him a feud with Rusev, who Rusev has been great. I could see them maybe turning it into a fatal four-way match, bringing in Cesaro and Sheamus in a way so that neither Rusev nor Reigns has to eat a pin. I could see them doing that. But if they did that, I would much rather them do something along the lines of Cesaro pinning Sheamus and winning the title. If you're going to do that, that way you can keep the Rusev Roman Reigns feud going, because Rusev could blame Roman. Like let's say this: Cesaro hits a neutralizer on Sheamus, Reigns and Rusev are out of the ring. Cesaro's going for the pin. Rusev tries to jump in to break up the pin. Roman Reigns holds him back. Cesaro wins the title. And then Rusev loses his freaking mind because Roman caused him to lose the title without actually losing. You then turn Cesaro into a super fighting champion where he shows up every week and he just does the John Cena Open Challenge bit, and he challenges people. And he just gets out there and says, look, I am the best wrestler on this brand, and I'm going to prove it by making this title the most important title, by defending it each and every week against whoever comes out of those curtains. So bring it. And his post brand split, his post draft promo interview was fantastic. And I loved how he addressed the whole speaking thing and whatnot. It was just fantastic. He is an extremely miss and underused talent. And so I think putting the United States Championship on him, making him dominant, but having phenomenal matches all year long, give him a long run. I mean, at least 6 months to a year run with the title, and make it the workhorse belt, make it the most important belt, the part of the show that everyone really looks forward to every week. And then you you work that up to he challenges the Universal Champion and says, okay, you know what? This is the belt that matters. You're out here, whoever it is at the time, you think you're so badass. Let's see if you can beat me. And then have maybe a title for title match. I would have Cesaro win. I mean, the great thing about the brand split is it gives more people more opportunities. And this is something that Dean Ambrose talked about on the Stone Cold podcast last Monday, which was a very unusual podcast. I think Dean Ambrose is a pretty personal guy in that he keeps his stuff to himself, which makes him not a very easy interview. But when Stone Cold asked about the brand extension and the brand split, he was like, it's great because it gives more people more opportunities. Instead of having to fill up 5 hours a week with the same exact storylines, you get 3 hours a week on one show, 2 hours a week on another show, and more people and more opportunities. And he's right. At first, I hated the idea of the brand split, but now I'm really enjoying it. And the things I think they're doing well, both shows are distinctly different. Now, the first week SmackDown was okay. The second week SmackDown was pretty darn good. Definitely better than Raw. And this last week, it was meh. It didn't suck as bad as Raw, but it certainly wasn't great. Though both shows are very, very different. They have their own personalities. The sets are different. I love that. There's a different look. The lighting is even different, which does wonders to how you perceive a show. So from that standpoint, they've done this really good thing. Also, Dean Ambrose is a guy who is never going to get a big run as world champion if the brands weren't split and if there weren't two titles. It just wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen when you've got, Vince McMahon obsessed that some dude like Roman Reigns can be the guy, and he has his mold of people. Think back to the last brand extension. Who are the people that benefited from that? Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. I mean, yeah, Triple H had his reign of terror, but you had other people benefit, and you had new talent built. That's when Randy Orton came about, and he became a star. That's when Batista became a star, and Brock Lesnar and John Cena and all that. So they did build some new talent, and they let talent that had not really thrived yet to that point really take off and run with things. And hell, even Rey Mysterio had good times back then. So I think this is a good thing. I think the more they keep these two separate, and once SummerSlam is over and this Brock Orton match is done, they need to thoroughly separate these two brands. Now, let's say the match happens and things are not settled between Orton and Lesnar, and we just have Orton go to the powers that be and say, I'm not done with him. I need to be on the same show as Brock Lesnar so I can go after his ass. And that's how he gets moved over to, say, Raw. And then as part of the exchange, let's say SmackDown gets Cesaro and maybe Kevin Owens. Now you would then also have to probably move Miz or whoever becomes the Intercontinental Champion over to Raw. But you kind of see where I'm going with that. That is, if Cesaro, following my hopeful booking that Cesaro became the U.S. champion. But if you move things around like that, you could then continue the Orton-Lesnar feud without having to do these invasion things, because that needs to not happen. There needs to be no crossing of the streams at all until maybe Survivor Series, and then just there would be a Survivor Series match that had Raw versus SmackDown, and just that's it. Otherwise, they need to keep them separate. They need to, until then, really, you could have cross promotional things really going on at WrestleMania. Because of the Royal Rumble, I figure you'll get 15 people from each brand in the Rumble, or maybe 12 or 30, something, and then have small handful of new people or people not on either brand show up, but you've got surprises. Whoever wins the Rumble goes to WrestleMania, and whichever brand they're on, they go for that title. Or, hell, you might even give them a choice. Okay, you just won the Royal Rumble. You get to headline WrestleMania. It is now your choice. Do you want to fight for the WWE World Championship or the WWE Universal Championship? And depending on which one you pick, you go to that brand. Kind of like what happened with Benoit when he moved to Raw to fight for the World Championship. So that could all work, but you've really got to keep them separate. And I think they really have done a good job at giving these shows distinct personalities. So you can now watch really 4 different brands per se within WWE and see 4 very different shows. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the Cruiserweight Classic. Now, the Cruiserweight Classic has a lot in common with NXT, but that show also does feel very different. The set is completely different. It's a very different beast. And Raw and SmackDown are very different, but they're also different from NXT. So that has been really good. Last week's shows being really lackluster, I think it's just they're in that middle moment building to a major pay-per-view, plus you had a big bunch of house shows going on in New Zealand and Australia, so you had a ton of talent just, out of the country. So that doesn't help. But that is kind of my thoughts on the brand split. Again, when we have Jason back on the show, we're going to talk about this as well, because I definitely want to get his take on it. As far as the Universal Championship goes, when I first heard that was the name, I was like, that's kind of lame. But, the more I think about it, and then as I discovered that there have been other promotions with Universal Championships, and you think, AAA has the Mega Championship, it's fine. It doesn't bother me that much. If the belt design is basically the current belt, but with a red background, I'm okay with that too. And then you just give Dean a new belt with some blue background. That's fine. What would be nice about that is making them, and then the women's championship as well, making them the same essential belt, holds them physically wise, holds them to the same level. So I think that's kind of cool. If that is actually the case. But that's brand split talk. Now, a couple things on the Cruiserweight Classic. So there were a couple episodes I didn't watch. I watched the first one, and I've watched the last 2, and I have to say, these last 2 episodes have just been outstanding. Not last week, the week before, there were 2... Well, in the last 2 weeks, there have been 3 matches that I think are, up there, top 10 matches of the year. 2 of them are going to be match of the year candidates. So we had the Jack Gallagher Fabian Eichner match, which was awesome. And you look at this group of people that they've got in the Cruiserweight Classic, and you kind of look over and go, okay, here are some of the guys they really need to sign. Those 2 guys need to be signed, like right now. Fabian Eichner he's buff as all hell. He looks like he's got to be bigger than 200 pounds. Vince would probably love him because he's all jacked up. But that match with him and Gallagher was fantastic, and the color team of Mauro Ronaldo and Daniel Bryan is just ridiculously good. So yeah, I love that match. But then that match was followed up by Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, which was just breathtaking. It was amazing. I mean, if you have not seen this match, what the hell is wrong with you? Go watch this match. It is that damn good. I can't do it justice by talking about spots, but that moment afterwards where Gargano wins and Tommaso goes to leave because he's disappointed, he's upset that he lost, and then stops, gets back in the ring, sits down next to Gargano, and they hug it out, and he raises Gargano's hand. That It's just an amazing moment. Brought a little tear to my eye. It was perfect. That was something special. That is going to be in many, many top 10 matches of the year, if not top 5 matches of the year. Certainly anything WWE related. But I'll put that match up against anything that's out there. I don't care what the promotion is. That match is that fucking good. And then you had this last week, which was a 2-match show, Tajiri and Grand Metalik, which was a really good match. Grand Metalik won, if I'm not mistaken, but really fun match. And then the main event, which was Kota Ibushi against Cedric Alexander. And this was incredible. Even though there were a couple of botches here and there, it didn't matter, man. These two told such a story, especially Cedric Alexander. There was a moment where he hit a segment of moves, it got a near fall, and hit the look of what, I didn't get a pin out of this. I didn't get 3. How is that possible? This desperate look in his eyes. It was incredible. He just did such a phenomenal job in this match. The whole thing was great. But then the match is over, and you have this truly magical moment afterwards. Cedric Alexander's leaving. He's getting just tons of cheers. Tons of thank you, Cedric. The place is going nuts. And then the crowd busts into what is going to be one of the coolest moments of 2016, chanting, "Please sign Cedric." And this match also had a Fight Forever chant. But had "Please sign Cedric" chants, and they were going and going and going, and eventually Triple H comes out from backstage. He looks at the crowd, he holds a thumbs up, shakes Cedric's hand, and holds thumbs up again to the crowd and walks back. If they do not sign Cedric Alexander, they're out of their fucking mind. I have been a fan of this guy since I really got back into wrestling. And I remember back in early 2014, when I really started following things again. And I found a match on YouTube, Cedric Alexander against AJ Styles. And it's one of my favorite matches of 2014. It's like number 3 on my countdown that's posted on our website, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. You should go check that out. But from that moment, from that match on, I've been a fan. I loved his stuff in Ring of Honor. I loved his heel turn because he just got so frustrated that he wasn't going anywhere. I thought it worked beautifully. He slimmed down, lost a ton of weight for this tournament, and both of his matches were incredible. And he needs to show up on NXT, and he needs to show up on NXT soon. They need to sign this guy. Of these 3 matches I talked about, Gargano and Ciampa are pretty much already signed. They need to sign Kota Ibushi. He's already been on NXT once. They need to sign Cedric Alexander. They need to sign Gallagher. They need to sign Eichner. They had that Samoan dude, with the big hair, who had a match against who was it? I can't remember. He had a great match against somebody in the first round and lost. But he's been on NXT. And he had a good match. So you got to bring these guys in, man. And I know they're probably going to end up on Raw in part of the Cruiserweight division. But if Finn Balor being in the main event, going for the Universal title as a Cruiserweight, billed under 200 pounds, if that works, I really hope to see these guys, the top ones, the really outstanding guys, like a Cedric Alexander, like a Kota Ibushi, even, like a Gallagher or an Eichner, and especially a Gargano and Ciampa, move out of that Cruiserweight field up into the bigger divisions and fight for the U.S. title, fight for the Universal title, or if they end up on SmackDown, fight for the Intercontinental and the World title. That would be fantastic. But this Cruiserweight Classic has been fun. That moment, the "Please sign Cedric," brought tears to my eyes. It was something special. And it was, I mean, really, it's been one of my favorite moments so far in 2016. And so just kind of for kicks, I put together my 4 favorite moments of this year so far in wrestling. And so far, they're all in WWE. You know, I try to keep up with other promotions, and I enjoy the hell out of Ring of Honor. I've enjoyed Lucha Underground, though I didn't follow season 2. Just, Jesus, man, I'm 41 years old, got family, kids, career, all that crap. Well, I don't even know if it's a career, but a job. Anywho, so it's hard to keep up. It really, really is. And I tell you what, the people that do it, like the guys over at Voices of Wrestling, the Voices of Wrestling flagship show, the amount of wrestling that those fools watch is impressive. How they have time to do anything else, I don't know. But my favorite moments so far this year have been Bayley showing up at Battleground to team with Sasha Banks. That was incredible. The end of after the match of the Johnny Gargano Tommaso Ciampa at the end of the Cruiserweight Classic Round 1, the please sign Cedric moment, and AJ Styles' debut at the Royal Rumble. Those have been the best moments of the year. Those have just been amazing. So that's going to be about it. So it brings us to the end of a return episode of Around the Ring. I hope you guys come back next week. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at Around the Ring OK. We got a Facebook page you can like. Head over to facebook.com/Around the Ring OK. And appreciate you guys stopping by and listening. I hope everyone has a great week. And make sure, if you can, watch the Ring of Honor pay-per-view this Friday. Definitely watch TakeOver on Saturday. And we should hopefully be back next Sunday and talk about those shows and preview some SummerSlam. So have a great week, guys. Take care.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view and believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Damn! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.